All right, everyone, thanks for joining us for the 2021 Spring Pet Food Alliance webinar series. We're happy to have you all join us today for our first webinar of this series, a transportation webinar, and we'll introduce our speakers here in just a few minutes. But before we get started with our speaker introductions, for many of you, this is your first interaction and experience with the Pet Food Alliance. So just a brief background about PFA, the origins of the organization, and some future plans we have moving forward. We'd be remiss if we didn't acknowledge the global pandemic that we're in and the impact it's played on the Pet Food Alliance in our traditional theme of in-person meetings, but we're really happy to embrace this virtual platform and have the opportunity to still engage and discuss important topics impacting the pet food and rendering industries in a virtual way to still continue our work in these important spaces, despite the circumstances that exist around us. The Pet Food Alliance was founded through a funding from the Fats and Protein Research Foundation to Colorado State University, and really was intended to bring together members of the pet food and rendering industries along with academia to explore collaborative solutions to industry-wide challenges, as well as the exploration of mutually beneficial opportunities that impacted both industries. The theme and really the mission relies on the fact that collaboration around mutual topics, whether they're challenges or opportunities, impacts and improves the perspectives of all members that are at the table. So it really is housed on the premise that it takes every member with a stake in the game to join in these conversations around important topics, one of which we'll continue exploring today relative to transportation. When COVID hit, obviously the organization transitioned from in-person meetings to these new virtual platforms. I'm sure we're all quite well versed in virtual Zoom meetings or whatever virtual platforms you're familiar with. And we'll continue that theme for 2021. Even though it was a unique challenge that presented itself in 2020, now that we're all accustomed to virtual meetings, we feel that it provides an opportunity to continue to engage around these important topics that impact pet food rendering. So in 2021, we'll actually host a webinar series. This webinar series will include many topics that we've discussed within the Pet Food Alliance since its inception, including product safety and product quality, as well as the opportunity to engage with the future of our industries through exploration of careers and internships with students who are pursuing or potentially pursuing careers that may not currently entail opportunities within pet food or rendering, but exposing them to the variety of opportunities that exist, as well as new topics that have arisen as challenges and opportunities through conversations within the Pet Food Alliance, such as foreign material and foreign material detection and the role of third-party auditing within our industries. We're also happy today to announce formally that we are planning to host an in-person meeting prior to the Pet Food Forum, which will be held in September in Kansas City, Missouri. So although plans are currently evolving very rapidly as public health restrictions and regulations change quickly, we're excited to again reconvene around that same table of exploring challenges and opportunities in the pet food and rendering, and doing so in person. So the slide on your screen shows a bit of the things we're excited for as it relates to this in-person meeting. For me personally, the opportunity to see people versus computer screens, as well as conference food. I've enjoyed learning to cook new things, but I also really miss the great food that we experience when we get to travel. So we're hopeful that you mark these dates on your calendar for the Pet Food Alliance meeting, which again will be held prior to the 2021 Pet Food Forum meeting in Kansas City. Details about the Pet Food Alliance meeting will be forthcoming, especially as public health restrictions evolve and we learn more about the limitations and opportunities that exist relative to in-person meetings. If you have additional questions or want to seek more information about the Pet Food Alliance, just a brief plug about our organization before we get into today's speakers. Our website is available. The address is there on your screen, as well as a dedicated email address to not only facilitate questions about our in-person meetings and webinars, but help to maintain the mission of the Pet Food Alliance of providing networking opportunities for our members. So if we can be of any assistance, please do reach out. And we hope that you have these dates on your calendar for our future in-person meetings, as well as webinars around some of the important topics we'll be exploring this year. And that brings me to our topic for today. Our topic for today has been a theme of the Pet Food Alliance conversations for many years, really since the inception, but the voices that we'll hear today haven't yet been introduced to many conversations that have been housed within the Pet Food Alliance. And as we've discussed very important issues related to product quality and product safety, it's important that we also include within those conversations the role of transportation. So today we have two speakers joining us that represent the transportation industry and the important role they play in maintaining the quality and safety of products from the rendering industry going into the pet food industry and products subsequently leaving for pet foods during pet food production. One of our first speakers is Josh Merrill. Josh has been at CAG in Springfield for over 6 years now, and he is the person who manages washing operations for CAG. We're really excited not only to have him join us today, but also give us insight into the actual operations through a tour, if you will, of the facility itself. So I'm going to not only introduce Josh and thank him for giving us his time and sharing his expertise, but I'm going to ask Josh to go ahead and turn on his camera, and I'll mute myself and begin his portion of the presentation.
Great. Thanks for your introduction. Can you hear me all right?
We can hear you just fine.
Good. First, I just want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy schedule to just be able to see a little bit of what we do. We won't have a lot of time to cover everything, but thanks for taking time out of your schedules to see a little bit of what we do. So this is our wash bay here, KIG, Springfield, Missouri. We've got a double wash bay here. We can kind of follow me around and kind of see the area. The first thing that we do every day is whenever we come in, we gather a lot check of all the trailers that we have on the property. That lot check is then taken inside where we gather BOLs for the last prior loads that were hauled, so we can verify what was in there so that it's safe for us to wash and so that we know what it can be used safely for the next load for. At that point in time, like I said, we have the two wash bays, so we have our tank washers start pulling trailers in, and going off those BOLs, they will do whichever wash is required for that prior product. So that's a way that we check kind of our checks and balances there at the very beginning before we even start. If there's ever a question, then they'll come inside and get a supervisor, and we'll kind of deal with it from there. But that's how we kind of get our day started. Then one of the first things that we do is we come to the back of the trailer, kind of break it down, take it all apart, get all the fittings, hoses, gaskets, all that stuff. We put them in these baskets over here where we power wash them, get them good and clean, get most of the debris off, and then kind of set them aside for the time being. Here, and I'll give you a quick tour. We use Peacock. It's a spinner system. That's what we use here for our internal cleaning of the trailers. They're a big boiler system. There's two different styles that you can use. Some people use the higher volume with the lower pressure. Our systems that we use here, they're actually high pressure, low volume. So they only put out about 22 gallons a minute. It's about 215 degrees. The soap goes through, the chemicals go through, and then the hot water goes through. So it gets everything all good and clean inside there, and then it rinses it all out. We can actually go upstairs too, and I can kind of show you what that spinner looks like that goes into the trailer. I know you guys are probably gonna have a lot of questions. We're gonna save some time at the end for in-depth questions. If you guys have them, you can go ahead and put them in the chat there. I think we'll address those toward the end. So we come up top up here. You guys can kind of see we got our safety racks up here. This is kind of our spinner system that goes into the trailer there. Again, it rotates as it turns. So over the course of the hour or so long wash, it kind of hits every area inside of the trailer, gets it good and clean. So that's kind of that. Let's go back down there. And here's our hose cleaning system. This is something that we kind of designed and came up with here in Springfield as a way after talking to customers and finding out that kind of what the industry was doing wasn't getting them as clean as they could be. And we kind of came up with this. This basket here, you can kind of see this is where after all the debris and everything is taken off of the gaskets, all the fittings and everything, they're loaded into here, which is then submerged in that tank there for about 15-20 minutes. And that's whenever this is turned on. We can kind of show you if you want to film that inside of there. Okay, so you can kind of see the water goes through the hoses, rips through the hoses, it's pumped through there real quick, gets it good and clean. And at the same time, this basket's down in the tank, right about where the spout level is. So everything that's in there is getting good and clean. And then toward the end, everything's taken out and hit again with water and sanitizer. Let's see, what else? I don't know. Do you know about how long I've been going? I'll make sure I don't go over time here.
You're good, Josh. You've been about 15 minutes.
Okay, good. All right. We also have our air dry system. Any of the trailers that are washed here, whenever they get done, especially kosher ones have to be, but we dry all of our trailers. We have a food grade air dryer over here. It's kind of up there, a little hard to see. But we do air samples every so often, and we use the HEPA filters, the MER filters in there to make sure that everything's up and up out there. But everything that you see, and again, it's kind of a brief tour when we walk through there. All the chemicals that we use here are USDA approved. We make sure of that. We have a lot of customer specific chemicals that we use. We do customer specific washes here. So if a customer comes to us and they want their trailer washed a certain way, our system allows us to set it up to do that. So we've actually worked with a lot of customers on their cleaning procedures and what kind of wash they want, and have set that up for them. So we're able to do that. The Peacock system records minute by minute, actually second by second. And at the end of the wash will give us like a printout of that entire wash, what soaps came on, when they came on, kind of how long they ran for. And so we get that at the end of every wash. And like I said, once the trailer's done, supervisor checks it over, everything's sealed up, and the wash ticket and the prior bill lading is then sent on with the driver. I think that's about all I had on my end until we get to the testing, everything after Doug's done. If I didn't miss anything, did I? I think we're good.
Thanks so much, Josh. It's really interesting to see behind the scenes and get a tour, which will really help inform some of the conversations we'll get to have later. So we have a couple of questions. Yeah. We're going to save our questions for the end of today's presentation. But I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker, Mr. Doug Harkness. Doug is the president and general manager for American Tank Wash Partners, which was established in 2019. He's located in Jefferson, Indiana, which is just across the border from Louisville, Kentucky. And I've actually been to Jeffersonville, so I know exactly where he's at. But we're really fortunate today to have Doug join us and share a bit about his operation and the work that they do there. So Doug's been in the industry for quite some time, not only has served as a consultant, but leader of the American Tank Wash Partners, obviously, but very well versed in the role of transportation and specifically how to perform transportation in a sanitary in a safe way. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Doug, and we'll let you get started.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you just fine.
Okay. So today we're going to walk through the cleaning process used for cleaning pet food ingredients. In this case, it would be chicken and pork slurries. And the first thing we do during this process is heel removal. And for anyone who doesn't know the term heel, that is just leftover product after the unloading process. So it'll come to the cleaning facility and still have some residual in it. So here we have a diaphragm pump. As you can see, it's the blue pump. It's hooked to the exit of the trailer, and it pulls out all of the meat slurry that we rinse out. I'm actually going to go up to the top of the trailer, and we do this with an 1.5 inch hose hooked to our cleaning system. We would make a tank entry. Hold on a second. We make a tank entry and we go inside the trailer and we actually remove the meat slurry. Sometimes there's 100 to 200 pounds in each trailer, and depending on the time of year, it could be frozen, you know, a little hard to get out. But that comes out of the hose at 85 gallons a minute and about 100 PSI. And the entry lasts about 6 to 7 minutes. Once the meat is removed, we would actually disconnect the hose, and right here is a typical industry tank cleaning spinner. And it moves 360 degrees in 2 directions. And it throws a spherical pattern inside the tank from end to end. Most of these are 40 to 45 feet in length. And it does a really good job of removing all of the meat inside the trailer. I'll take you over here. We custom built an automated cleaning system in conjunction with Hartel International. Can everybody see the screen here? It shows each one of our cleaning vats. It's all touch screen, and we have a variation of recipes from juice to meat slurry to dairy, kosher varieties of all. And it is a pre-programmed recipe with the duration, the soap strength, and the temperature for all of our customer requirements. And it actually transports the data from the CIP system to our desktop, and that's how we generate our work orders. The drying system we have, after it goes through the recipe, they're integral units. They basically come out of the box this way, but it's got a 12-inch food grade hose. It's got HEPA filtration, and it just keeps any particulates that would be, you know, in the ambient air here from getting into the trailer after it's dry. And how most things work in the world, it's not done till the paperwork's done. And so we've got a tank cleaning order, or some people call it a wash ticket. And hold on one second here. Hey, Brian, we all get a copy of a wash ticket. Thank you. Sorry about that, guys. I'm also, they're going to bring the wash ticket, but I'm going to show you the heartbeat of our cleaning system. Right here is our hot water tank. It's 600 gallons on demand. And then we have above that our sanitizer tank. Anyone who requires a no rinse sanitizer. We've got a series of 3 vats. This is our kosherization tank. And then next to it is our food grade detergent. And then we have a degreaser, which is just caustic or alkaline degreaser, pretty general. Sodium hydroxide is what it is. Everything is spring to close valves, air to open. We also, thank you. We also, for safety and health reasons, we came up with our detergent injection, where the batches are made as the conductivity meter drops below the set point. It will, even during a wash, stop the wash timer, boost the detergent, and then restart. So you don't even miss 1 second in the wash. It'll maintain that soap strength. It'll maintain the temperature. If anything's out of order, it will catch it. If you can see, this is one of our cleaning orders, and all of the data is transferred, like I said, through a SCADA system, and that's a supervisory control and data acquisition. Sorry, I had to remember that. It's not a term I'm usually familiar with, but and on this sheet, along with the data, we also enter our seal numbers that are all unique number, barcoded, where we can basically maintain the integrity of our cleaning through to the customer loading point. So they can make sure that everything left here and was not tampered with in between. This is the last part of the dime tour, if you will. It's our, we have another screen on the first floor. It shows the same thing. One more thing that I did want to show you that is something we do here that some tank washers don't. We actually, hold on a second. We have our wastewater plant. We actually keep effluent separate. If we rinse an oil and water, we send it to oil and water. If we rinse juices or sugars, we send that to a certain place. So that way it segregates our waste. It allows it to be used in other processes and not deemed a waste. And it really helps the environment and helps heal charges for our customers. So that's basically the gist of our tank wash here.
Thanks so much, Doug. That's a great follow-up to Josh's overall tour of tank washing, and then a really nice lead-in into some of the more technical components of tank washing, specifically as it relates to testing. So we're going to transition back to Josh, and Josh is going to overview some of the testing that occurs within the tank washing process, specifically ATP testing and salmonella testing protocols. Josh is well-versed, has been trained quite a bit in testing, both for bacterial product quality, air and water quality as well. So Josh, if you will turn on your camera and unmute yourself, we'll let you talk to us a bit about testing.
All right, sorry, we got a truck passing out there. It's kind of noisy. So we offer ATP testing. Again, the air testing, water quality testing, that's all, we do all that stuff here as well, just to maintain the integrity of our wash. Same thing with the drying, that whole system, we get that air tested every so often, just to make sure that you don't want, the last thing you want is to have a trailer that's been cleaning for a couple hour or two, and you go to dry it at the very end and you're putting in air that's got pollutants and all that stuff. So we do regular filter changes. And then again, we do that testing. We're really fortunate here in Springfield, about 2 blocks that way. We have a really good food lab that people send stuff from out of state to that food lab. So we're real fortunate in that we have them over there, and the amount of testing that they can do is limitless. Bacteria testing, they do a lot of stuff for dairy, because we have a lot of dairy plants around here, but they can do all that stuff as well. In-house, what we do in-house for certain customers, we do just a simple swab ATP test. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with that, being in the food industry, but we have the ability to do that in-house. several of our customers have where we swab 4 or 5 places on the trailer once the wash is completed. So we have the computer software, we swab the spots, register it in. We have the reader. I can show you kind of what we use here. We use the Hygiena. You get your little swabs like this. Then you have your system right here where you kind of put it in and it gives you the results. And we had this, we've had to get this set up, obviously calibrated, but it's set up so that, I mean, if you're familiar with ATP, every surface is a little bit different. So you have your stainless, you have your aluminum, you have your rubber. There's a different set of parameters for what would be your pass fail on all of those surfaces. So we've got that set up, and depending upon what we're swabbing of that trailer, we usually swab a gasket here, a gasket up top. So that those would fall into the rubber category. And then the rubber, it varies a little bit depending on what you're swabbing. So, and then whenever we get completely done with it, we get a little report like this. That report can be passed on. What we do here whenever we send out a trailer is we send out the wash ticket with all the parameters and everything that was met with the seals for integrity. And then we send out the prior bill of lading so that the customer knows that what's on the wash ticket as the prior load actually is the prior load. Just helps with integrity. And then if a customer does request, we can do this and we can send this out with it as well. So they know every time that it was actually done. We do actually offer salmonella testing. We don't do much of it. I don't have the little swabs here, but if we ever need to, we can run over to the lab and buy those swabs. And then they just, it's a 24-hour process. It's the same type of deal. You wouldn't just swab one spot, you'd swab several spots on the trailer. And then we would get those over to the lab. That trailer would be sealed up and everything just as if it was completed, but it would be parked off to the side until those testings came back negative. Again, it can take up to 24 hours. There are some instances when it can take 36 if there's something in question or whatnot. In that instance, we would typically probably just want to go ahead and wash the trailer if it was needing further testing. We'd probably just want to rewash the trailer and kind of start all over. So we do offer that. There's a couple other things that we can offer. But as of now, we offer those two. And like I said, we get the water done pretty regularly and the air done pretty regularly as well. So that's it on that. If anybody has any questions about that, we can follow up toward the end. But I'll toss it back to you.
Thanks, Josh, for that overview of testing. And we all know it plays such an important role in this industry, and specifically the transportation role within maintaining high quality and safe products from rendering to pet food. So I'm now going to ask our speakers to turn on their cameras and join us for our Q&A session. We've had a variety of questions across the multiple different components of transportation that we've talked about. And we'll go ahead and start the Q&A session of our program. As we're going through the Q&A, if you have additional questions, please just do include them in the chat, and I'll make sure that our speakers have the opportunity to answer those. The first question, though, that we have for our speakers was actually from Dr. Billy Johnson, who helped us. I'll be remiss if I don't acknowledge her role in helping us coordinate today's session. But Billy was curious, does the system provide temperature of the water used? And this was during Josh's overview when we first got started.
So I guess I'll go ahead and take that. Our system, I think most wash systems do. Our system, and sorry, I kind of breezed through that there at the beginning because I was a little worried I would be short on time. But like I said, this is just a little bit of what we do, and we could talk about this probably. I know Doug and myself could talk about all this for days, but here we don't use any reclaimed water in our wash process. And everything that goes through the machine, whether it's whenever we have the chemicals going, even whenever we have the sanitizer going, or whenever we have the water going, it is tracked every step of the way. My printout at the end of the wash can tell you when the soap kicked on, when the wash time started, and what temp it was. So if we start a wash at 1:15 in the afternoon, I can tell you what the temp of the machine and the temp of the tanker was at 1:15, 1:15:30, 1:16, all along the way. It'll tell you what time the chemicals kick on, what time they kick off, and how hot that water was the whole time. It comes in handy in a lot of circumstances, especially when you're talking about kosher loads where it has to run at a certain temp for so long. Our machines, I don't know if I mentioned it, they're capable of doing about 215, 220. We don't always wash that hot due to, you don't want to damage insulation in the trailers, but we do wash pretty hot. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes, thank you,
And all-
Josh. I appreciate it.
In our system, it has two places to measure that temperature. We can tell when it left the vat and the pump going to the trailer. And then it also gives a return temperature because depending on what time of year, your ambient is going to affect your temperature coming back. And a lot of people want to rely on that temperature coming back. So you get the proper heat for the wash.
Thank you both for that information. I think that not only answers Billy's question, but provides a bit of insight into the amount of monitoring that occurs of the entire process, even as it relates to temperature. The next question, some of the questions that are in the chat, I think were answered in our last session relative to testing, but the next question is from Pablo. Do you follow a specific code of practice? And let's start first, Doug, if you want to address that, and then we'll turn it over and see if Josh wants to provide any comments for that.
Well, what we have to follow for the food grade side, and we just let it carry over, is HACCP principles, and that's your hazard assessment and critical control points. So through our wash, through our preventative maintenance, and then verification of instruments like a thermometer, digital thermometer, or a conductivity meter, those are tested periodically to make sure that that integrity is still there. So HACCP principles guide who we are as a tank wash.
Josh, any comments on a code of practice that you all would follow?
Yeah, I mean, in addition to what he mentioned, I mean, as far as actual food grade tank wash protocol, it's kind of surprising whenever you actually dive into it, what some places are doing and calling that. So, you know, we always stress, you know, we get better every time we have a customer audit. We love customer audits. We love to have them here. We learn something from them. They learn a lot from us. But I mean, know where you're going, know the people that you're working with, you know, tour them if you can, as often as you can, see what they're actually doing. We have all of our guys are trained several times a year. New hires are trained with for the first 2 months before they're actually allowed to do anything on their own. And there's follow-up training all the time. So that would just be my biggest suggestion. I've seen some things, you know, so I just know who you're working with. They should always have written procedures, protocols, and training. I mean, ask to see all that as much as you can. The audits are your friend, and we as a tank wash, we actually really like, you know, having the customers in and having the audit because, you know, as much as you guys learn from us, we always pick up something from every audit that we can implement to make ourselves better. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Josh. That really highlights kind of the mission of the Pet Food Alliance as well, the idea of learning from and helping each other around these important topics such as transportation. So even as it relates to
Exactly.
audit inspection, such an important role for the industry. The next question is from Jacob Swan at Tyson, and this is for you, Doug. I believe you talked about heel removal. So Jacob's question is, what are the average costs for heel removal?
We are a fairly new player on the block, being that we opened and been operating for basically a year. So we're getting our feet under us on best practices. As of right now, because we had something to prove with the industry, we have not been, we don't have a standard heel charge. We're trying to get to be able to charge someone, you have to know what your costs are. And we're not trying to make our money overcharging for heel. So the best local we found for heel is composting, which is a sustainable way to get rid of it, and it's fairly cheap. You know, we're talking it's beneficial for the environment, and it's $30 a ton. Now that doesn't include the transportation and the storage, but it's better than taking it to a landfill where it does nothing. So, but what we're working on is with groups like that are on this call is maybe a way to empty things more efficiently and completely at the unload point. There's tons of things that if on calls like this, we can all get together, know what the other ones are doing, and minimize a lot of that heel, which absolutely helps everyone. So right now we're still, the jury's out on heel charges, but we're still open and we're still doing well here. And we just continue to strive to make that process more efficient.
Thanks for that, Doug. Definitely lots of opportunity for innovation in that space for sure. The next question can really go to either of you. So we'll start with Doug and then turn it over to Josh. But the question is, what is the most difficult tanker to clean and which material is most difficult to clean?
Are we sticking with pet food only?
Let's stick with pet food only for that question.
All right, because everybody loves chocolate, and that's one of the hard ones. Really, it's I wasn't ready for that question, but your pork and chicken both behave about the same way. Proper heel removal is vital. After that, it's basically push a button. The automated recipe holds all your temperatures and soap. It's not really hard, but the most difficult one is probably pork or chicken slurry. The oils seem to be easy because it's push a button and it goes to a process tank. You just can't run solids through your cleaning system. So I'm going to go with pork and chicken are about the same.
Josh, do you concur with pork and chicken?
Absolutely. I also concur with the chocolate thing. Those can be pretty time consuming, but yeah, I mean, chicken fat, not a problem. Pork fat actually in liquid form is not a problem, but that pork and chicken slurry, I mean, you know, it's like hamburger meat stuck to some old Tupperware. I mean, it sticks everywhere in there, and you got, I mean, it's pretty challenging, but I mean, we do it all the time, and you know, makes us better, I guess. But the hardest part with those is getting all that old product out. I mean, they can only do so much when they're unloading that stuff, given that it's pretty solid stuff compared to the fats and oils. So yeah, again, like Doug said earlier, the better we can get with customers about getting more of their product off the trailers to begin with, you know, it's beneficial to everybody. But yeah, definitely getting that heel out before you even start that wash is pretty time consuming.
Well, I hate to hear that about chocolate because I'm a big chocolate fan, but I understand a cleaning
Well,
perspective.
Jennifer, the best part of chocolate heel is you give it to your family and friends and you eat it.
I think you just inherited a lot of new friends, Doug.
Yeah, I did. This Christmas, it was great.
The next question is from Pablo. Is the dry state of the finished truck verified visually?
As far as I'm assuming he's referring to the interior of the trailer after it's dried.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, with those food grade air dry systems, I mean, it's pretty much like a jet engine. Ours is anyways. You can hear it all the way across this property whenever it fires up and kicks on. The one thing, I mean, if you're trying to dry a cool trailer, it's not going to work. You have to have it really good and hot. But when you put that air in there, I mean, there have been times when we have checked, just like when our system was new, and checking it when we do air quality tests and stuff to verify that the trailer is totally dry. On a normal everyday basis, no, because you can't enter, you know, once the final wash cycles ran, if any part of your body enters that trailer, then it's considered contaminated. So you can't lean over and look in there with the flashlight. I mean, we raise the trailer up all the way as high as we can. Whenever we do that process, you'll see the moisture drip to the back and you'll see all the condensation coming out. If there were any water in there whatsoever, you know, even condensation, it would still be coming out the back of the trailer, and we make sure that it's not before we send them out. Now, there are sometimes a year whenever it's really cold or whatnot that you know, just because that trailer's dry, it's still pretty hot. So we have to, you know, run that dryer a little longer to get them even cooler so condensation doesn't build back up once you take them outside in the cold. But for the most part, yeah, they're, with our system here anyways, they're pretty bone dry.
Our system here is about the same way. The only time I've run into measurements of humidity is when you get into some pharmaceuticals and even some, when I was in the chemical industry, they'll want a dew point that you have to meet. And you can do that with a heated or refrigerated or desiccant type air dryer. It gets very costly. And like I said, it's kind of a whole nother ballpark, but we don't run into that in this food grade portion of the industry.
Thank you both. That's helpful to know. Our next question from Anson Pond with Pilgrims. Would you ever guarantee a salmonella-free tanker?
Well, I'll take that real fast. If we were to do a swab test, we can only say this was the integrity of our wash. It's matched by a swab test. Given a blanket guarantee statement, I don't know anybody that would do that. We'd like to get there, but I don't know how you would guarantee that. A no rinse sanitizer would get further in, I think, doing that, but just a clean or a heat to kill and mitigate the, the pathogens. That's what you would do, but to give it that guarantee, it'd be hard to do.
We've spent a lot of time here. Actually, recently we had a customer who was in, and at the time we were not offering salmonella testing. Given the temperatures that we wash at and the products that we use and the sanitizer that we use, I would like to say yes, but I'm with Doug. There's absolutely no way, and I don't think there's a way anybody in the tank wash industry, even given, like I said, what the temp salmonella dies at, the length of the wash, you'd like to say yes, but you cannot say yes without a test. And that's when we went down that whole road, because it seems like the industry is going that way. And luckily, we were fortunate enough to have the lab here close by. But I'd like to say yes, but you absolutely cannot say yes, especially when you're talking about food. Given a positive, saying positively, you can't do that without the test.
Thanks for that from both of you. We've had lots of conversation as an alliance about the direction we're heading in salmonella free in the role that transportation plays in making, if that's even possible. So that's very valuable insight. Really leads into the next question from Craig Grantham. He says, a thorough cleaning process is very important, and carrying the safest material is also key to the process. Are you seeing more products like Pet Food Solutions, Gold Shield, refined chicken fat that are bacteriostatic and which inhibit the growth of bacteria such as salmonella? This additional measure of safety can be important to ensure the confidence in transportation. So are you seeing products like that which promote a bacteriostatic product coming into transportation?
Well, without really, I'm trying to stay on base with this one, but we clean dairy, okay? I would imagine it has some of the same bacteria as being described in the question, salmonella, things like that. And what works very well in dairy, and it's one of the simplest washes, and I guess because they wash it so frequent, it's just a nonstop moving dairy products. We use a peroxacetic acid. It has peroxide, acetic acid, and it smells like vinegar, but it's left in the trailer as a final rinse, drip dry, put the valve cap on, and it stays in the tank. If there was growth or potential for growth, there's active sanitizer in the tank. So I know it's worked very well for the dairy, and without reinventing the wheel, that's one thing that I would like to push for. If we ever, I'm gonna mention the Juice Producers Association. JPA has a nice record and very specific cleaning procedures. What was last contained and how you clean that type of trailer. And without reinventing the wheel, I think maybe if there's some notes that come from this, Juice Producers, JPA, there's 4 different types, and it covers just about any product. And that might be a good place to start as far as fighting these pathogens, in poultry or pork.
Thanks for that, Doug. That's good insight into other industries that could be of value and what they've learned that could bring opportunity to the pet food and rendering industries. Another question, have you validated the CIPs for pathogen reduction? And let's throw this, since Doug just answered that one, let's throw this to Josh, if you want to provide any comments on that one, Josh.
I don't know that our system has been. I'm not sure. I know with the temperature that we wash at, you would think that it would be relatively safe, but as far as on the inner workings and everything, I don't know that'd be something we would have to look into.
I would have to say that what we do here, we always follow manufacturer instructions on solutions that we use at the prescribed temperature and strength. And a couple of the companies that I buy from, as long as you follow what they say, it'll say, if you're at this many parts per million, it's going to mitigate E. coli, staph, and different pathogens. But to follow up and chart, was this successful? All we can do is say, we can prove we did the temp, they said, and the strength and the duration. And unless there's a swab test, I'm like, Josh, there's really, we don't measure it, and we can just guarantee that we follow manufacturer's instructions.
Yeah, and I agree. Maybe I misunderstood the question. Yeah, I mean, any chemical that comes to us, I mean, you'd like to think you follow the instructions and everything's fine. So as far as the tanker side, yeah, I mean, I feel confident in the sanitizers and everything that we use, which all do flow through that same system. I thought we were talking about like the inner workings of the system and how often are they checked out.
Yeah, I think a bit of both. So certainly, has the system been validated there are validation that it's working to eliminate.
Yeah, gotcha.
And HACCP makes you do that. The HACCP manual, it has you go back and check and verify that at least your readings are accurate as verified by another instrument. Sorry to interrupt. That's all I had to say on that.
That's very helpful and very useful insight. The next question is from Dave Edmondson. If a customer simply asks for a food grade wash, what do you do, or is there an industry standard that you follow?
That is a great question that I've actually was dealing with. We deal with that a lot. And with us being an actual transportation company, we do have to wash out on the road quite a bit. So we like to think our tank wash is right there, but not all of our trailers can come through here every load. And, there was an issue a couple days ago. It's an ongoing thing where anybody can call themselves, and it goes back to what I talked about earlier, know your customers, know who you're doing business with, do your audits, because as far as a food grade standard for tank washes, it's kind of a gray area. We were asked by one of our customers about a place where somebody else who had been going into there had been washing at recently, and called them and found out that their food grade wash consists of a couple of guys with the garden hose going in and washing the trailer and then hitting it with soap and then washing it again. So be careful. I see that probably more because we're actually a transportation company. So we run into that quite a bit, but I've heard lots of things and seen lots of things. So again, as people in this business, try to know your customers, know who's moving your stuff, know where they're washing out, and go in and do those audits, check it out, see what they're doing, so that you feel confident and comfortable with them hauling your product. You guys go through all those steps at the plants, and then moving it from plant to plant. You got to make sure that the person in the middle is doing their part, and or else that whole system could break down. I
love this question because, and I kind of heard Josh snicker, because people take terms in the industry and they might say, give me a kosher wash on this pork trailer. I don't know a rabbi that would even have that conversation. You know, you have to, the recipe, you can't just pull one out of thin air. And there's such a variation of what is asked for. We do rely on JPA because it's an exact recipe that's been around and it's changed and been developed. And it has gravitas. It means something to people that know what it is. And so if somebody doesn't know what wash they want, we will guide them towards, let's just say, a JPA 2, which is for water-based products. And last contained, water-based. And they'll say, well, I like that, but we don't want a no rinse sanitizer. Okay, we'll give you a JPA 2 and kind of an a la carte minus the sanitizer, and they sign off on that. So if they go to a place and they say, yeah, we had a JPA 2 wash, and they'll say, well, where's the sanitizer? Well, we told them not to put it in there. So we always start from a point of reference of something that's proven, like an IMS dairy wash or a JPA 2. And if they want variations, they have to sign off on it.
And as a follow-up too, I mean, something that Doug kind of mentioned there, we're a tank wash that is ran by a transportation company. Doug's a tank wash, but all the same, I mean, if you're a company who's looking for wash standards, want to make sure that your standards are being met, want to plan for what you want to get done to your trailers. Hey, these are our trailers, or this is our product. When it's being moved, this is what we want. I mean, that's part of what we do all the time. I've met with lots of potential new customers or customers who surprisingly enough, didn't even have a plan of, and a lot of times they don't know what wash they're even looking for, or they think they need this wash because they've heard that. That's where somebody like Doug, he can set up a full plan. We can do the same thing here. We can set up a full plan. We can get special chemicals if that's what you want. I have several. We have a customer who we get a special sanitizer for because that's what they want. We have customers who we swab test for because that's what they want. You can come up with anything you want and make whatever you want, and set your own parameters for that wash, but get with somebody who knows the industry. And I mean, that's what we're here for. We can help with that all the time.
I hope with this group, and I'm going to make it's already a mission of mine. The pet food industry needs their own terms with their own gravitas. And I hope through these calls, we're able to focus, and I'll even take the lead, Jennifer, if you would like, but to have some standard terms that maybe everyone would be on the same page.
That leads well into kind of to cap us off here for today. We still have quite a few questions in the chat, but just being mindful of coming up on the top of the hour and knowing folks have busy schedules, I do want to take the opportunity to recognize the value of these conversations that bring to the table transportation, pet food, and rendering to come to agreement and to explore solutions to the challenges that are faced by all in this industry, and then the opportunities that exist there within. So truly appreciate, Doug, you and Josh sharing your expertise, your insights, spending some of your own time to show us the operations and explore some of the nuances of transportation and truck washing itself, and really begin the process of engaging in these critical conversations around the role of transportation and safety and quality. And I think we're just seeing the beginning of the future relationships and the conversations that we'll have in the future. So I know all of those on the call are very appreciative of this unique opportunity to get a behind the scenes view of what a tank washing process actually looks like. So thank you both for that. If you did submit a question that hasn't been answered, we'll stay on the Zoom chat for a bit longer if you want to stick around and ask additional questions, but just wanted to be respectful of the fact that you all are very busy and have many meetings on your calendars. If we can, as a Pet Food Alliance, help or facilitate in any way, whether it's conversations with our speakers, I'll share their email addresses as well as a recording of the presentation after we wrap up today. And be on the lookout for additional information about future and upcoming webinars and meetings of the Pet Food Alliance. But thank you all for spending time joining us for this critical conversation and really the start of a piece of the puzzle that has been missing from the Pet Food Alliance conversations relative to quality and safety in the past. And we look forward to continuing them as we go forward. So stay safe, have a great afternoon. Feel free to stick around if you have additional questions and want to engage a bit more with our speakers.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I mean, it's definitely our pleasure to do this. And again, we, from over the years having customers in, we learn just as much from you guys as you guys probably do from us. And feel free to, I'm sure Doug's the same way, but feel free to, if we don't get to a question, I think our email addresses are going to be on the screen. You guys can reach out to us or Dave for anything, and we'll try to get them answered as best we can for you.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's just a great privilege to be part of your group, and I just very pleased that you asked us to do that.
Thank you both, and thanks everyone for joining. We'll give folks time to leave the meeting, and then we'll open it up to any Q&A that may still exist and some unanswered questions that are in our chat if folks stick around. So have a great afternoon if you're departing. We look forward to seeing you at future PFA webinars.